The pain was a living, breathing beast tearing me apart from the inside. "Push, my lady," a voice shrieked. "For the glory of the Shun household." Fools, I thought through a haze of blinding agony. I am not pushing for the Shun household. I am pushing so my father can usurp this wretched empire. But I couldn't speak. The ginseng the physician had forced down my throat was burning my veins. I gripped the silk sheets, preparing to deliver the final, agonizing push that would cement my absolute power. When the world violently snapped, the screaming stopped. The smell of blood and burning incense vanished. Instead, a strange, rhythmic clack-clack-clack filled my ears, accompanied by a low, continuous humming sound that vibrated in my very bones. I gasped, my eyes flying open, fully expecting to see the newborn heir. Instead, my face was pressed against a flat, hard black board covered in tiny raised squares. A puddle of drool connected my cheek to a square-marked space. I bolted upright, my heart hammering. The pain in my abdomen was completely gone. In fact, I wasn't pregnant at all. My waist was cinched in stiff, scratchy blue trousers, and I was sitting in a terrifying contraption of mesh and wheels. "Xiao!" I barked, my voice cracking. "Xiao, where are the midwives? Where is my son?" "Amaya? You good?" I snapped my head to the right. Sitting in an adjacent, impossibly small partition square was a peasant. He wore a strange, unbuttoned tunic patterned with tiny squares, and he was staring at me with a mixture of concern and mild amusement. He held a ceramic cup bearing the words, "World's okayest co-worker." "Who are you?" I demanded, leaping to my feet. The wheelchair shot backward, slamming into a gray partition. "Where are my guards? What sorcery is this?" The peasant blinked. "Did you fall asleep while running the Q3 pivot tables? You've been drooling on your keyboard for 20 minutes. Also, Alexander wants the quarterly projections in 10 minutes. You might want to wipe your face." Pivot tables? Keyboard. Alexander? I looked down at the desk. There was a glowing rectangular mirror made of pure light. On it, strange runes and grids of numbers were shifting and blinking. I looked at my hands. They were uncalloused, but devoid of my jade rings and long, painted nail guards. My hair felt short, chopped ruthlessly at the shoulders. I lunged forward, grabbing the peasant by his strange patterned collar. "Listen to me, you insolent dog. I am Mingyu, matriarch of the Shun household. If you do not tell me which rival lord has trapped me in this illusion, I will have your family exiled to the salt mines." The man carefully raised his hands, looking genuinely terrified. "Whoa, my okay. HR violation. HR violation. I'm just Greg from accounting. Please don't salt mine my family." I released him, my mind spinning with terrifying calculations. This was no illusion. The air was too cold, smelling faintly of old paper and strange chemicals. I had read the ancient Taoist scrolls. Transmigration. The swapping of souls. Some pitiful, weak-willed spirit must have swapped places with me at the moment of my greatest triumph. I looked back at the glowing box of light. Greg from accounting had mentioned an Alexander, who demanded projections. A lord. A master. And clearly, this body I inhabited was nothing more than a lowly scribe. A cold, familiar smile spread across my face. I smoothed down my bizarre, scratchy trousers and stood tall. "Greg of accounting," I commanded, my voice dripping with imperial authority. "Bring me this black tea of the bean you peasants drink. And point me toward this Lord Alexander. It seems I have a new empire to conquer." Chapter 1. "Greg of accounting," I commanded, my voice dripping with imperial authority, though it came out sounding a bit raspy. "Bring me this black tea of the bean you peasants drink. And point me toward this Lord Alexander. It seems I have a new empire to conquer." Greg stared at me, his eyes darting to the pool of drool still glistening on my keyboard. "Okay. I'm just going to go get that coffee now. Don't fire me in your head, please." As Greg backed away slowly and disappeared around the gray partition, I stood tall, intending to survey my new domain. But the moment I shifted my weight, a blinding, piercing pain shot through my temples. I gasped, gripping the edge of the strange, smooth desk. It wasn't the physical agony of childbirth this time. It was a violent, overwhelming mental assault. Images, words, and concepts I had never seen before began to rapidly unpack themselves in my mind, forcefully overriding my ancient instincts. A university campus. Long nights studying for a degree in information technology. The quiet satisfaction of writing a flawless Python script. The smell of cheap takeout. The soft, repetitive motion of tying back my hair with a handmade crochet scrunchie before a long study session. And then the darker memories. The crushing anxiety of presenting data. The way the marketing director, a sneering man named Todd, constantly took credit for my analysis. The profound, paralyzing fear of causing offense. I slumped back into the wheeled chair, clutching my head as the dual realities merged. I was Mingyu, matriarch of the Shun household, a woman who had orchestrated the fall of dynasties. But I was also Maya, a 25-year-old data analyst who was tragically polite, deeply non-confrontational, and currently suffering from severe burnout. Pathetic, I whispered to myself. I could feel Maya's lingering anxiety fluttering in my chest like a trapped bird. A strange, soft little conscience that recoiled at my natural urge to have Todd from marketing permanently silenced. No murder, Maya's residual instincts seemed to plead. We need this job to pay rent. Fine, I muttered, rubbing my temples. No esas enaschins. But I am not absorbing your cowardice, Maya. If we are to survive in this bizarre realm, we will do it my way. I opened my eyes and looked at the magic glowing box on the desk. To Mingyu, it was a terrifying panel of light. But thanks to Maya's memories, I knew it was a dual-monitor desktop setup. I understood the strange runes. I knew exactly what the flashing spreadsheet on the screen represented. Q3 revenue projections, I read aloud. According to Greg Lord Alexander, the CEO of this empire, demanded these figures in less than 10 minutes. Maya's memories of Alexander Sterling immediately surfaced, accompanied by a sharp spike of both terror and undeniable attraction. He was a ruthless, hyper-efficient leader with striking blue eyes and a reputation for verbally decimating anyone who wasted his time. A worthy adversary, or perhaps a worthy ally. I cracked my knuckles, feeling the unfamiliar, uncalloused joints pop. My hands hovered over the keyboard. To my shock, muscle memory took over. My fingers flew across the keys, executing shortcuts and running the necessary data queries with lightning speed. The information flowing across the screen wasn't just numbers to me. My ancient strategic mind immediately saw the patterns. Maya had compiled the data, but she had been too timid to highlight the glaring inefficiencies. Todd's marketing department was hemorrhaging the company's gold reserves on useless vanity campaigns, while the core infrastructure was starving. A cruel, victorious smile touched my lips. I didn't just finalize the projections. I aggressively restructured the report, adding a heavily highlighted summary page that explicitly mapped out the marketing department's financial treason. I was going to serve Todd's head to the emperor on a silver, data-driven platter. Just as I hit the final save command, Greg scurried back into the cubicle, holding a steaming paper cup. "One double-shot Americano," he said nervously, setting it on my desk. "Maya, seriously, Alexander's executive assistant just pinged us. He's walking into the boardroom now. If you don't print that report." "Peace, Greg," I said smoothly, taking a sip of the dark, bitter liquid. My eyes widened as the caffeine hit my bloodstream with the force of a galloping warhorse. What a magnificent combat potion. "The report is finished." I stood up, smoothing down my drab, ill-fitting gray cardigan. I made a mental note to acquire actual armor, perhaps something in crimson silk, by week's end. I reached up, adjusting the handmade crochet scrunchie in my hair, feeling a strange, lingering fondness for the small comfort it provided Maya. "I shall deliver this to Lord Alexander myself," I announced, grabbing the warm stack of paper that had just slid out of the humming printing machine. "Wait, you," Greg squeaked. "You never go into the boardroom. You always make me slide it under the door." "The days of sliding things under doors are over," I declared, my chin held high. Maya's anxiety flared in my chest, a desperate plea to stay invisible, but I ruthlessly crushed it down. Mingyu did not hide in cubicles. "Wish me luck, peasant," I threw over my shoulder as I marched toward the glass double doors at the end of the hall. "I am going to court." Chapter 2. The glass doors to the boardroom were heavy, but they swung open with a satisfying, dramatic swoosh that closely mimicked the entrance to the imperial throne room. I stepped inside, the residual energy of the double-shot Americano coursing through my veins like liquid lightning. The room was freezing, an intentional tactic, I presumed, to keep the lesser lords alert. Around a long, polished obsidian table sat the executive council. At the head of the table sat Alexander Sterling. Maya's memories had warned me he was handsome, but the mental images did not do him justice. Alexander possessed the sharp, predatory stillness of a seasoned warlord. He wore a dark, impeccably tailored suit that served as modern armor, his striking blue eyes scanning a glowing tablet with lethal focus. I thought, a genuine thrill racing down my spine. Finally, a man who looks like he could order a successful execution before breakfast. Maya? The grating voice broke my assessment. I turned to see Todd, the director of marketing. Todd possessed the aura of a man who spent far too much time oiling his hair, and absolutely no time sharpening his sword. He wore a brightly checkered suit that made him look like a court jester, and he was already reaching his hand out toward my freshly printed stack of reports. "Thanks, sweetie, just drop those right here," Todd said, flashing a blinding, entirely fake smile. "I'll present the Q3 metrics to Alex. You can run along back to your little spreadsheet cave." Maya's instinct was to shrink, apologize, and hand over the credit. Her anxiety flared in my chest, a deeply ingrained fear of confrontation. I took a sip of my Americano, let the bitter elixir fortify my spirit, and slapped Todd's hand away. The smack echoed loudly in the quiet boardroom. Several executives gasped. Todd recoiled as if I had just struck him with a hot iron, cradling his manicured hand. "Do not touch my deliverables, Todd," I warned, my voice dropping to a smooth, chilling register. I completely bypassed him, marching directly to the head of the table. I placed the heavily highlighted report directly in front of Alexander Sterling. Alexander slowly looked up from his tablet. His blue eyes locked onto mine, narrowing in sheer, unadulterated surprise. "Maya, you usually send Greg in with these." "Greg is a peasant. Excuse me, an associate," I corrected smoothly, channeling my finest court etiquette. "This data requires a general's explanation. Lord Alexander, if you turn to page 4, you will see exactly why our gold reserves, revenue, are hemorrhaging." Alexander didn't blink. He opened the folder. Todd, recovering from his shock, rushed forward, his face turning an angry mottled red. "Alex, she doesn't know what she's talking about. The marketing data is highly nuanced. Maya is just a mid-level analyst. She doesn't understand the overarching synergy of our brand awareness campaign." My ancient instincts flared. He lies. In my past life, I would have immediately claimed Todd was embezzling funds to finance a rebellion. I would have planted a forged letter in his desk and watched him dragged away in chains. It was the easy, ruthless path. But suddenly, Maya's quiet, logical voice pulsed in the back of my mind. "No, we don't need to forge anything. I wrote a Python script last night that tracked his exact ad spend. He's not committing treason. He's just incredibly stupid. Use the truth. It's cleaner." I paused. Defeating an enemy without committing a felony? How profoundly novel. I took a breath, letting Maya's moral compass guide my ruthless delivery. It felt strangely empowering to rely on right and wrong, rather than just sheer malice. "There is no synergy, Todd. There is only a profound failure of logic," I stated clearly, projecting my voice so the entire council could hear. I tapped the exact line on Alexander's paper with a perfectly manicured nail. Marketing reallocated 40% of the Q3 budget into influencer campaigns that yielded a conversion rate of 0.2%. "You burned our capital on vanity." My script cross-referenced the server logs. "The traffic you claimed to generate was entirely comprised of automated bots." Todd opened and closed his mouth like a suffocating carp. You can't prove that." "I just did," I replied coldly, tapping the data. "The numbers do not lie. Only incompetent directors do." The boardroom plunged into absolute silence. I stood tall, waiting for the Emperor's judgment. I expected Alexander to yell, to demand further proof, or perhaps to exile Todd to the modern equivalent of the salt mines. Instead, Alexander began to laugh. It was a low, rich sound that completely transformed his severe features, making my heart perform a sudden, deeply unprofessional flutter. He looked at the data, then looked up at me. The icy, untouchable CEO was gone. In his place was a man looking at me as if I were a magnificent, highly dangerous puzzle he couldn't wait to solve. "Well," Alexander murmured, his voice a dark velvet purr that sent a shiver straight down to my toes. "It seems our data department has finally found its teeth." He looked at Todd. "Todd, we will be having a very long discussion about this brand awareness after the meeting. Sit down and be quiet." Todd, thoroughly defeated and pale, slunk back to his chair. Alexander shifted his gaze back to me. The intensity in his blue eyes was entirely focused, pinning me in place. He didn't dismiss me. Instead, he reached out and pulled the heavy leather chair next to his own out from the table. "Sit, Maya," he commanded softly. I blinked, momentarily thrown. "Here?" At the right hand of the emperor. A small, genuine smile tugged at the corner of Alexander's mouth. "If by emperor, you mean me, then yes. I want you to walk me through the rest of this Python script of yours. I need to know exactly how deep this inefficiency goes." As I sat down in the plush leather chair, Alexander reached over and casually poured a glass of iced water from the crystal pitcher on the table, setting it gently in front of me. His fingers brushed against mine for a fraction of a second. The contact was brief, but the sudden, electric spark that flared between us was undeniable. "Thank you, Alexander." I breathed, my ancient, calculating heart suddenly feeling very modern and very human. "No, Maya," he said quietly, his eyes dropping to my lips for a fleeting second before returning to the spreadsheet. "Thank you. It is incredibly rare to find someone who isn't afraid of the truth." I took a sip of the ice water, a soft, victorious smile curving my lips. I didn't need poison or forged ledgers. In this strange, glowing world, competence was the ultimate weapon. And it seemed the emperor was already entirely disarmed. Chapter 3. The meeting concluded with the rest of the executive council scurrying out of the boardroom like terrified mice. Todd had practically sprinted for the door, clutching his ruined marketing projections to his chest. Alexander stood up, buttoning his suit jacket with a sharp, precise movement. "My office. Now." He didn't wait for a reply, turning and striding out the door. My ancient instincts bristled at the command, but Maya's memories helpfully supplied the context. "He's the CEO. We follow him, or we lose the gold reserves." I grabbed my coffee and followed. The journey to Alexander's office required entering a private elevator. To Mingyu, it was a terrifying, levitating glass cage of death suspended in a metal shaft. As the doors slid shut and the box lurched upward, I gripped the stainless steel handrail so tightly my knuckles turned white. Alexander glanced at me, his sharp blue eyes catching my reflection in the glass. "Are you all right, Maya? You look like you're preparing for an execution." "I am merely evaluating the structural integrity of this floating metal box," I said stiffly, forcing my breathing to remain even. "If the cables snap, the plummet will be fatal." A slow, highly amused smirk spread across his face. "It's inspected monthly. You're safe." He took a step closer, his voice dropping to a lower, quieter register. "Though I have to admit, after watching you eviscerate Todd in front of the entire board, I didn't peg you as someone who scares easily." "I do not fear the box," I lied proudly. "I simply distrust sorcery." Before he could question my use of the word sorcery, the doors chimed and slid open, revealing the penthouse suite. It was a magnificent sanctum. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a dizzying, sweeping view of the city skyline. The furniture was sleek, dark mahogany and leather, and there wasn't a single guard in sight. It was a terrifying display of pure, unbothered power. Alexander didn't need swordsmen to protect him. He had an army of lawyers. He walked over to his massive desk and leaned against the edge, crossing his arms over his chest. He looked at me, a highly intelligent predator assessing a new, fascinating prey. "All right," Alexander said softly. "Who are you, and what have you done with my timid, chronically apologetic data analyst?" I stood in the center of the room, clasping my hands behind my back in a military parade rest. I experienced an awakening, a software update. I realized that bowing to incompetence was a disservice to the realm. The company. "A disservice to the company," he repeated, tasting the words. "You just saved us millions in misallocated funds. But tell me, why didn't you bring this to me privately? Why humiliate Todd in front of the council?" My villainous instincts instantly flared. Because a public execution breeds absolute loyalty through fear. I opened my mouth to say exactly that, but Maya's gentle, nagging conscience suddenly squeezed my heart. Because Todd takes credit for everyone's work and bullies the interns. He needed to be stopped, but we don't need to destroy his life. We just need to stop the bleeding. I paused, closing my mouth. It was a strange sensation, this empathy. Mingyu would have poisoned his tea. Maya just wanted fairness. Perhaps there was a middle ground. A way to be powerful without being a monster. Because a private reprimand does not cure a systemic infection, Alexander. I said, my voice softening just a fraction. Todd's incompetence was a symptom. Your generals, your executives, have grown complacent. They hide behind jargon. If you want this empire to thrive, you need to show them that data, truth, and actual hard work are the only things that will be rewarded. Alexander stared at me. The silence stretched between us, thick and crackling with an electric tension. You're critiquing my leadership, he murmured. I am offering counsel to my CEO. I corrected smoothly, though my heart was beginning to race. You are isolated in this glass tower. You do not see the ground troops. Terminate Todd's employment. Send him into the wasteland with a standard severance. He has a mortgage, after all, and we are not barbarians. But strip his access badge immediately. Alexander let out a soft, breathy laugh, pushing off the desk. He closed the distance between us in 3 long strides, stopping so close I had to tilt my head up to look at him. He smelled of expensive cedar, bergamot, and pure, intoxicating authority. We are not barbarians, he echoed, a warm, genuine smile finally reaching his eyes. You have an incredible mind, Maya. I don't know what sparked this change in you, but I am entirely captivated by it. He reached out, his long fingers gently brushing against my shoulder. I jumped slightly, not out of fear, but because of the sudden, intense heat that flared at his touch. My cheap, scratchy gray cardigan suddenly felt incredibly inadequate under his gaze. You're shivering, he noted, his voice turning surprisingly gentle. The air conditioning is high up here. Before I could protest, Alexander slipped out of his suit jacket and draped it over my shoulders. The heavy, silk-lined wool was still warm from his body, enveloping me in his scent. It was an undeniably protective, intimate gesture, something a warlord would do for his favored consort. A strange, fluttering sensation erupted in my stomach. Maya's memory supplied the term, butterflies. Thank you, I whispered, pulling the lapels of the jacket closer to my chest. Keep the jacket for now, Alexander said, his blue eyes dropping to my lips before slowly dragging back up to meet my gaze. Go back to your desk. Draft the termination paperwork for Todd and send it to HR. And Maya? Yes. From now on, you report directly to me, he commanded softly. I want you out of that cubicle and up here on this floor by tomorrow morning. I bowed my head slightly, a victorious, utterly smitten smile playing on my lips. As you command, Alexander. I turned and stepped back into the glass box of death, realizing that while I hadn't conquered an ancient dynasty today, I had absolutely secured the high ground, and I was going to need a much, much better wardrobe. Chapter 4. The first order of business in my new role as the Emperor's right hand was a complete overhaul of my tactical gear. Standing in front of the mirrored closet in Maya's surprisingly small, brightly lit apartment, I surveyed the damage. It was a disaster. Row upon row of oversized cardigans, shapeless gray slacks, and pastel blouses that practically screamed, "Please ignore me. I am merely part of the drywall." Absolutely not, I muttered, tossing a beige sweater onto the floor. I cannot command the penthouse in the garb of a scullery maid. I had spent the evening interrogating Maya's glowing pocket mirror, the smartphone. To understand the financial logistics of this realm, I discovered a small piece of blue plastic that apparently held a line of magical, invisible credit. Maya's conscience immediately flared up, her phantom anxiety tightening my chest. We have a budget. Her inner voice panicked. Rent is due in 2 weeks. We can't max out the card. Peace, Maya, I replied aloud, tapping the plastic card against my chin. In war, one must invest in superior armor to secure victory. Think of this not as vanity, but as a hostile acquisition of our own confidence. Besides, Alexander Sterling is not a man who respects beige. The next morning, I did not go to the office at 8 a.m. I went to the commercial district. I walked into a high-end boutique that smelled of rich leather and expensive perfume. A sales associate, taking one look at my dreary cardigan and the handmade crochet scrunchie holding my hair in a messy bun, immediately turned her back to fold a display of silk scarves. I did not take offense. I simply took command. You, I barked, my voice cracking like a whip across the quiet store. The associate jumped, spinning around. I require your finest battle garments. Power suits, crimson, black, and perhaps a deep sapphire. And bring me footwear that doubles as a lethal weapon. 2 hours later, the transformation was complete. When I stepped out of the glass box of death, the elevator, onto the penthouse floor, the entire atmosphere of the executive suite seemed to shift. I was wearing a tailored, double-breasted suit in a shade of blood red that commanded absolute attention. The trousers were sharp, the blazer cinched perfectly at my waist, and beneath it, I wore a sleek black silk camisole. On my feet were black stilettos with heels so sharp they could undoubtedly pierce a man's jugular. I had abandoned the messy bun, letting my hair fall in a sleek, sharp cut around my shoulders, though I kept the small crochet scrunchie wrapped around my wrist. A tactical compromise to keep Maya's anxious spirit pacified. Alexander's executive assistant, a highly efficient woman named Sarah, dropped her pen. "Maya? Is that you?" "Good morning, Sarah," I said smoothly, my heels clicking rhythmically against the polished marble floor. "Is the CEO available, or is he currently holding court?" Before Sarah could answer, the heavy mahogany door to Alexander's office swung open. Alexander stepped out, holding a tablet already mid-sentence. "Sarah, I need the revised metrics from." He stopped dead in his tracks. His eyes locked onto me, and for a wildly satisfying moment, the formidable, untouchable CEO of Sterling Financial forgot how to speak. His gaze swept over me, taking in the crimson suit, the sharp heels, and the regal posture I had perfected over decades of ruling an ancient dynasty. The air between us instantly thickened, humming with a sudden, heavy electricity. "Maya," he breathed, his voice dropping an octave. "Alexander," I replied, offering a very small, perfectly executed nod. "I trust when I'm not late." I had to acquire appropriate attire for my new station. My previous garments were insufficiently intimidating. Alexander slowly lowered the tablet. A slow, deeply appreciative smile spread across his handsome face, entirely erasing his cold corporate persona. He stepped closer, entering my personal space with the fluid grace of a predator who had just found a mate that could match his teeth. "Insufficiently intimidating," he repeated, his blue eyes gleaming with dark amusement and unmistakable heat. "Well, consider that problem entirely rectified. You look." He paused, his gaze dropping to the black silk at my collarbone before rising back to meet my eyes. "Lethal." That was the objective, I purred, feeling a magnificent flush of heat rise in my cheeks. Maya's anxiety was completely silent now, entirely overridden by the sheer, intoxicating thrill of Alexander's attention. He leaned in, his voice a low, private rumble meant only for my ears. "Red is definitely your color. Come inside my office, COO. We have an empire to run, and I suddenly find myself very eager to hear your strategic advice." As he placed a warm, guiding hand on the small of my back, sending a jolt of electricity straight to my core, I smiled. The modern world was strange, chaotic, and filled with terrifying magic. But as the heavy mahogany doors clicked shut behind us, isolating us in his sunlit sanctum, I realized that absolute power, and the breathtaking man wielding it, felt exactly the same. Chapter 5. The summons arrived via the glowing magical box just after my second cup of the black elixir. Subject: urgent. Meeting regarding workplace conduct. Please come to the 4th floor at 10 a.m. I stared at the glowing runes. In my previous life, a summons to the inner courts without a stated reason meant the Emperor's secret police had found your hidden poison stash. The Ministry of Internal Discipline, I murmured, my eyes narrowing. Maya's memories helpfully supplied the modern translation. Human resources. According to my predecessor, HR was a terrifying realm of patronizing smiles, beige carpeting, and constructive feedback that usually ended with someone carrying their belongings in a cardboard box. Todd's loyalists from marketing had undoubtedly launched a counterattack. "We are going to get fired," Maya's phantom anxiety wailed in my chest, making my heart race. "We can't afford to get fired. Just apologize and say you'll be a better team player." "We will do no such thing," I whispered firmly, smoothing the lapels of my crimson suit. "A matriarch does not apologize to the secret police. But fear not, little spirit. I will not resort to bloodshed. We shall use your modern weaponry." I spent the next 20 minutes aggressively compiling data, printing out a thick dossier. Armed with cold, hard facts, I descended to the 4th floor. The HR representative's name was Brenda. She sat behind a desk cluttered with framed photos of golden retrievers and a glass bowl of suspiciously stale hard candies. Brenda wore a pastel floral blouse and possessed the kind of aggressively sweet smile that, in the ancient courts, usually meant a woman was currently poisoning your tea. "Maya, come in, take a seat," Brenda cooed, gesturing to a stiff, uncomfortable chair. "We just need to have a little chat about, well, team synergy. Several members of the marketing team have filed grievances claiming you've created a hostile work environment." "A hostile environment," I repeated flatly, declining the chair. I preferred to tower over my interrogators. Did I threaten to sever their limbs? Did I withhold their grain rations? Brenda blinked, her fake smile faltering. "Excuse me? No, they claim you are intimidating and uncooperative." "Maya, we pride ourselves on a culture of kindness here. You can't just slap people's hands and call their campaigns financial treason." I slowly placed my thick, heavily tabbed dossier onto Brenda's desk with a resounding thud. "Brenda of Human Resources," I began, my voice a smooth, deadly purr. "If you wish to discuss workplace grievances, we must review the entire ledger. You accuse me of intimidation. I accuse marketing of time theft and corporate fraud." I flipped open the folder. "Let us examine Kevin from marketing. He claims I am uncooperative. According to the server logs I pulled this morning, Kevin spends 4 hours a day playing a magical simulation called World of Something on company Wi-Fi. Then there is Jessica. She filed a grievance about my tone. Jessica has been expensing her daily luxury lunches to the client entertainment budget, despite having no clients." Brenda's eyes widened, her jaw dropping as she stared at the meticulously highlighted spreadsheets. How did you get this data?" "I am a data analyst," I said simply. "I analyze." My ancient instincts screamed at me to finish the job. Demand their immediate termination. Have them thrown into the streets. Strip them of their titles. But then a strange, profound pang of empathy, pure unadulterated Maya, washed over me. I remembered what it was like to struggle to pay rent. I remembered the fear of losing everything. In the ancient world, I destroyed my enemies completely because it was the only way to survive. But this wasn't the ancient world. These weren't assassins. They were just lazy, misguided peasants following a terrible leader. I took a slow breath, forcing the villainous down and letting the modern woman rise. "However," I continued, my voice softening, "I do not believe in arbitrary executions. Terminating them would require you to spend gold hiring and training replacements. Instead, I have drafted a performance improvement plan." I slid a second document toward Brenda. "They will repay the misallocated funds, their internet access will be strictly monitored, and they will report directly to me for the next 90 days. If they show loyalty and competence, they keep their livelihoods." Brenda stared at the document, then looked up at me with tears of sheer relief welling in her eyes. She had expected a bloodbath. Instead, she got a highly efficient rehabilitation strategy. "Maya, this is incredibly fair. And incredibly thorough," Brenda sniffled, reaching for a tissue. I will implement this immediately." "See that you do," I commanded gently. "And Brenda, throw out those hard candies. They are a choking hazard." I turned on my crimson heel and strode out of the HR department, feeling a new, profound sense of victory. I had conquered my enemies, but I had shown them mercy. I was growing. As I pushed through the double doors back into the main lobby, a tall, imposing figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Alexander. He had his hands buried in the pockets of his tailored trousers, his broad shoulders relaxed, but his blue eyes were scanning me with intense, protective scrutiny. "I was just about to come in there and pull rank," he said softly, falling into step beside me. "I heard Todd's cronies ambushed you. Are you all right? Do I need to scold the entire HR department?" The fact that the emperor of the company had abandoned his sanctum to personally ensure my safety sent a warm, magnificent flutter straight to my heart. "That won't be necessary," I smiled, looking up at his handsome face. "The uprising has been quelled. I instituted a performance improvement treaty." Alexander stopped walking. We were in a quiet, sunlit alcove near the floor-to-ceiling windows. He looked at me, a mixture of awe and deep affection softening his sharp features. "You didn't just fire them?" he asked, genuinely surprised. "After they tried to ruin you?" "I am learning," I admitted quietly, stepping just a fraction closer to him. "That true power is not just the ability to destroy your enemies, but the wisdom to know when to let them grow. Besides, replacing them would disrupt our Q4 momentum." Alexander let out a soft, breathless laugh. He didn't just reach for my shoulders. He closed the remaining distance between us, stepping so far into my personal space that I could feel the heat radiating from his chest. His hand came up, his knuckles gently grazing the line of my jaw before his thumb came to rest softly, deliberately, just below my lower lip. "You are absolutely extraordinary," he murmured, his voice dropping to a dark, velvet whisper that sent a violent shiver down my spine. His eyes darkened, dropping from my gaze to my mouth. The air in the alcove suddenly felt dangerously thin, heavy with a magnetic pull that rooted me to the spot. He leaned in, his breath ghosting hotly over my skin. Every ancient, guarded instinct I possessed demanded I step back from such absolute vulnerability. But Maya's heart was hammering a frantic, undeniable rhythm of desire. Just when I was certain he would close that final fraction of an inch and shatter every professional boundary we had left, he tilted his head. He pressed his lips to the very corner of my mouth, a slow, lingering, electrifying brush of heat that was infinitely more devastating than a proper kiss. "Come on," Alexander whispered heavily against my skin, his voice rough with deeply restrained control as he slowly pulled back. His blue eyes blazed with a promise that made my knees genuinely weak. He slipped his hand smoothly into mine, his fingers intertwining firmly with my own. Let the CEO buy his brilliant COO a celebratory cup of that ridiculously overpriced coffee. We have an empire to rule. Chapter 6. You wish me to descend into the catacombs, pay a toll to a mechanical gatekeeper, and board a subterranean iron worm? We stood a full block away from the towering glass facade of the Sterling Financial Building, right at the corner of a chaotic, deafening intersection. I stared down the gaping, concrete maw of the subway entrance, feeling the cold, stale wind blow up from the darkness. The screech of metal echoing from the depths sounded exactly like the wails of the damned in the underworld. Sarah, Alexander's highly efficient assistant, sighed and held out a small yellow plastic card. "It's the subway, Maya. It's the fastest way to the client site in the financial district. The Metro card has $30 on it. You just swipe." "I am the chief operating officer of a financial empire," I declared, taking a slow step back from the terrifying abyss as a crowd of peasants, commuters, rushed past me. "I do not travel via the underworld. If the company cannot provide a carriage, I shall requisition a horse." "A horse," Sarah repeated, her eyes glazing over. "Maya, you cannot ride a horse down Fifth Avenue. Is there a problem here?" The deep, resonant voice cut cleanly through the noise of the city traffic, sending a familiar, thrilling shiver down my spine. I spun around. Alexander was standing a few paces behind us, the midday sun catching the sharp angles of his face. He looked entirely too devastating in his tailored charcoal suit, the breeze slightly ruffling his dark hair. "Alexander," I said, feeling an immense wave of relief, "what are you doing out of the Citadel?" Alexander slipped his hands into his pockets, glancing at the subway entrance, then at the Metro card in Sarah's hand, and finally at my genuinely horrified expression. For a man known as the ice-cold tyrant of the boardroom, the sheer, helpless affection that instantly softened his eyes was jarring. He pressed his lips together, clearly fighting a losing battle against a smile. I was watching as my executive assistant led my new COO toward the public transit system like a lamb to the slaughter. Alexander said dryly. "Sarah, cancel my 1 o'clock. I'll drive her to the client meeting myself." "You're driving?" Sarah blinked in shock. "But Mr. Sterling, you never attend the preliminary negotiations." "I am restructuring my schedule," he said, leaving absolutely no room for argument. He turned to me, offering that dark, secret half-smile that made my pulse jump. "Come along, Maya. We are walking back to the building. My chariot awaits in the private garage." 10 minutes later, having retreated to the cavernous, echoing VIP parking garage beneath Sterling Financial, Alexander walked me toward a low, sleek, predatory machine painted in a glossy, obsidian black. It had no horses, yet it radiated an aura of terrifying, contained power. "An Aston Martin," I murmured, Maya's memory supplying the name of the beast. "It looks fast." "It gets the job done," Alexander said modestly, opening the passenger door for me. I slid into the low seat. The interior smelled intoxicatingly of rich leather and the faint, lingering scent of Alexander's bergamot cologne. Before I could locate the mechanical tethers to secure myself, Alexander ducked his head into the car. He didn't ask. He simply leaned entirely across my body to reach the seatbelt. My breath hitched. Suddenly, his broad chest was inches from my face. I could feel the solid heat of him radiating through his suit, and the line of his jaw brushed perilously close to my cheek. Time seemed to stop entirely in the dim light of the garage. Click. The metal buckle locked into place, but Alexander didn't immediately pull back. He turned his head just a fraction, his blue eyes locking onto mine at point-blank range. The playful amusement from the street corner was gone, replaced by a heavy, simmering intensity. "Comfortable," he murmured, his gaze dropping to my lips. "Entirely," I breathed, my voice barely a whisper. My heart was pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. He held my gaze for one scorching second longer before pulling back and closing the door, leaving me to desperately fan my heated face with a financial prospectus. The drive through the city was an exercise in pure adrenaline. Alexander drove with the same ruthless precision he used in the boardroom, smoothly navigating the chaotic traffic. "So," Alexander said, his voice breaking the comfortable silence as we merged onto the highway, "we are meeting with Vanguard Logistics. They are notorious for trying to bleed their partners dry in contract negotiations. What is your strategy?" My ancient instincts immediately flared. Crush them. Threaten their supply lines. Demand 80% of the profits and leave them destitute. But then the quiet, rational voice of Maya, the modern woman who understood the delicate ecosystem of sustainable business, stepped in. I looked out the window, watching the glittering towers of glass and steel pass by, and realized that absolute destruction was the tactic of a frightened tyrant. A true ruler built alliances. "We do not bleed them," I said thoughtfully, turning my head to look at him. "Vanguard's weakness is their aging technology infrastructure. We offer them a tiered profit-sharing model. In the first year, we take a larger cut, but we allocate a portion of those funds to upgrade their internal servers using our IT resources. As they become more efficient, their profit margin increases." Alexander shifted gears, glancing at me with a look of profound surprise. "You want to subsidize their tech upgrades? That's highly unconventional. Some would call it soft." "It is not soft. It is an investment in our own supply chain," I countered firmly, feeling a true synergy between Mingyu's commanding presence and Maya's brilliant analytical mind. "If we crush them now, they will go bankrupt in 2 years, and we will lose our logistics partner. If we elevate them, we create a loyal, hyper-efficient ally that is contractually bound to us for the next decade. We secure the empire by strengthening its borders, Alexander. Win-win." The car fell silent. Alexander was staring straight ahead at the road, but the grip on his leather-wrapped steering wheel had tightened. "Win-win," he repeated softly, the words carrying a heavy, awestruck weight. He reached across the center console. He didn't say anything else, but his large, warm hand found mine, his fingers intertwining with mine and resting them firmly on his thigh. I didn't pull away. I let my thumb trace the strong line of his knuckles, a soft, genuine smile touching my lips. I had spent my previous life surrounded by sycophants and assassins, constantly waiting for a knife in the dark. But sitting in this terrifying metal chariot, holding the hand of a man who didn't just desire my power, but actually respected my mind, I felt something entirely unprecedented. I felt safe. Chapter 7. The Vanguard Logistics meeting was a slaughter. Or rather, a highly optimized, mutually beneficial alliance that felt exactly like a slaughter, because we won so decisively. When we walked out of their glass-paneled boardroom, Vanguard CEO looked as though he had been hit by a very polite, data-driven chariot. By offering them the subsidized tech upgrades, I had secured a 10-year exclusivity contract. It was a flawless victory, achieved entirely without the use of poison, blackmail, or hidden archers. I was discovering that modern corporate dominance was deeply satisfying. We rode the glass box of death, the elevator, back up to the penthouse in a comfortable, victorious silence. Alexander stood beside me, his hands in his pockets, exuding a quiet, magnetic energy. Every time the elevator swayed slightly, his arm brushed mine, sending a cascade of heat straight to my core. As the digital numbers above the doors blinked to the 40th floor, Alexander suddenly reached out and pressed a glowing red button on the control panel. The elevator ground to an immediate, smooth halt. My heart leaped into my throat. Has the chariot broken? Are we plummeting to the underworld? No, Maya, Alexander chuckled, his voice echoing softly in the suspended glass box. I just hit the emergency stop. I needed a moment where Sarah couldn't interrupt us with a quarterly prospectus. I turned to face him, my pulse picking up speed. A private war council, then? Have you discovered a new enemy faction? No enemies, he said, turning fully toward me. The amusement in his eyes shifted into something much heavier, much more intense. He reached out, his long fingers gently catching my wrist. His thumb lightly stroked the handmade crochet scrunchie I had kept wrapped there. A small, familiar comfort that belonged entirely to Maya. I wanted to ask you a question, Alexander murmured, his gaze dropping to my lips before rising to meet my eyes. Tomorrow night is the annual corporate gala. The entire financial sector will be there. Competitors, clients, the press. The imperial banquet. I translated smoothly, nodding. I shall prepare my finest armor. We will need to monitor the appetizers for tampering, and I will draft a dossier on the key rival lords in attendance. Maya, Alexander interrupted softly, a devastatingly fond smile breaking across his face. He stepped closer, entirely invading my personal space. I don't want a dossier, and I don't want you to go as my COO. I blinked, genuinely confused. You are demoting me before the banquet? Alexander let out a breathless laugh, releasing my wrist only to slide his hand up my arm, his palm coming to rest warmly against the curve of my neck. His thumb brushed just beneath my jawline. I am trying, he whispered, his voice dark and incredibly tender, to ask you on a date. My ancient, strategic brain completely short-circuited. In my past life, courtship was a terrifying game of political leverage. Men sent gifts of silk and jade to secure my father's armies. They did not stop flying metal boxes in midair, just to look at me like I was the most precious, breathtaking thing they had ever seen. A date. I repeated intelligently. Yes, a date, Alexander confirmed, his thumb tracing a slow, electrifying circle against my skin. Before we face the wolves at the gala, I want to take you to dinner. Just us. No ledgers, no spreadsheets, no corporate espionage. I want to sit across from the brilliant, terrifying, beautiful woman who just conquered Vanguard Logistics, and I want to spend the evening entirely focused on making her smile. Maya's gentle heart did a violent, ecstatic backflip in my chest. Mingyu's ruthless soul practically purred in satisfaction. I tilted my chin up, refusing to break his gaze, even though my face felt as though it were on fire. Are we negotiating a treaty, Lord Alexander? I am submitting my formal surrender, he replied without missing a beat, his blue eyes blazing with sincerity. Will you have dinner with me, Maya? I thought about the dark, lonely nights in the ancient palace, surrounded by guards but entirely bereft of affection. I thought about Maya's quiet, anxious life, eating cheap takeout alone in her apartment. And then I looked at the man standing in front of me, offering a genuine, uncomplicated partnership. I accept your terms, I whispered. But you must choose the establishment. My knowledge of local taverns is severely lacking. Leave the logistics to me, Alexander smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. He leaned down, pressing a soft, lingering kiss to the corner of my mouth that made my knees instantly weak, before pulling back just enough to reach the control panel. He deactivated the emergency stop. The elevator hummed back to life, continuing its ascent to the penthouse. Tomorrow at 7, Alexander said, his voice returning to its smooth, commanding baseline as the doors slid open to the executive suite. But the possessive, entirely smitten look in his eyes remained strictly for me. We're something that won't cause a traffic accident, COO. I need my focus sharp. As I walked out of the elevator, my crimson heels clicking against the marble floor, I realized that conquering the corporate ladder was thrilling. But conquering the emperor's heart? That was an absolute masterpiece. Chapter 8. Before we could face the treacherous battlefield of the annual corporate gala, Alexander insisted on a formal negotiation of our personal terms. Or, in modern parlance, a proper uninterrupted date. 2 nights before the gala, he didn't take me to a crowded restaurant or a noisy bar. Instead, he arranged for private after-hours access to the city's botanical conservatory. A controlled environment. I noted approvingly as we walked down a quiet, winding path surrounded by towering, blooming orchids and lush ferns. The air was warm and smelled of damp earth and jasmine. No rival factions, no eavesdropping executives. Highly tactical. Alexander, dressed down in a dark tailored shirt with the sleeves rolled up to reveal his forearms, let out a low, rich laugh. He stopped walking and turned to face me. The soft, ambient light of the greenhouse cast sharp shadows across his incredibly handsome face, completely softening the severe lines he usually wore in the office. "It wasn't about tactics tonight, Maya," he said quietly. He reached out, gently taking both of my hands in his. His grip was warm and remarkably tender. "I just needed a place quiet enough to hear myself think, and a place beautiful enough to be worthy of you." My ancient, strategic heart did a strange, completely uncoordinated flutter. "Alexander." "I spend my entire life in a glass tower," he murmured, taking a step closer. His thumbs lightly brushed across my knuckles, sending a cascade of warmth up my arms. "Everything is scheduled, predicted, and managed. And then you walked into my boardroom, slapped Todd's hand, and completely upended my world." He looked down at our joined hands, a soft, almost vulnerable smile touching his lips, before his striking blue eyes met mine again. "I didn't bring you here to discuss business, or partnerships, or corporate synergy. I brought you here because I wanted to hold your hand without an audience. Because I am entirely, hopelessly captivated by you. Not just the brilliant COO who dominates board meetings, but the woman who drinks too much espresso, who is fiercely protective of her team, and who makes me smile for the first time in years. I just want to be the man who makes you happy, Maya." In the imperial court, courtship was a transaction of armies and gold. Men lied, schemed, and offered empty poetry to secure leverage. But standing in the quiet conservatory, looking into the eyes of a man who was stripping away all his armor just to offer me his heart, I felt my formidable defenses melt away into nothing. "Alexander," I whispered, a genuine, joyful smile spreading across my lips. "I think you are doing a magnificent job of it." He let out a breathless, relieved laugh, lifting my hands to his lips to press a lingering, deeply affectionate kiss to my knuckles that made my knees genuinely weak. By the time the annual corporate gala arrived, the lines of our alliance were firmly, beautifully drawn. We walked into the grand ballroom of the hotel presenting a united front. I wore the deep sapphire gown I had acquired during my tactical shopping spree. Alexander, looking like a devastatingly handsome prince in a classic black tuxedo, kept his hand resting warmly and protectively on the small of my back. "I am scanning the factions," I whispered, sipping a glass of champagne as we navigated the glittering, chaotic sea of silk and tailored suits. Alexander chuckled, leaning down so his lips brushed my ear. "You read a room like a general, my love." Before we could analyze the real estate developers, a man with slicked back hair, an overly white smile, and a tuxedo that was slightly too shiny slithered directly into our path. Maya's memories instantly provided the identification. Richard Vance, CEO of Apex Holdings. "Alexander, my boy," Vance boomed, stepping into our space with uninvited familiarity. "I hear Sterling Financial is making some bold moves. Sounds like you're going soft in your old age." Alexander's warmth vanished instantly. The ice-cold tyrant returned. "Strategic investments require foresight, Richard. I wouldn't expect a firm that just lost 20% of its market share to understand." Vance's fake smile twitched. His predatory gaze slid off Alexander and landed squarely on me, lingering far too long on the neckline of my sapphire gown. "And this must be the famous new COO," Vance purred, reaching out to grab my hand. "I'm Richard. If you ever get tired of playing second fiddle to a sinking ship, my door is always open. I appreciate a woman with assets." In my past life, a lesser lord speaking to me with such insolence would have lost his tongue. I didn't shrink back. I took a deliberate step forward, invading his space. "Richard of Apex Holdings," I said, my voice dropping to a smooth, chilling register. "I have reviewed your public filings. Your debt-to-equity ratio is a tragedy, and your primary supply chain is held together by sheer luck. The only ship sinking is yours." Vance turned an ugly shade of mottled red. "Listen here, you little." "Careful, Richard." Alexander didn't yell. He simply stepped forward, his shoulder brushing mine, presenting a seamless wall of hostility. "The COO has concluded her analysis of your firm. If you ever speak to her in that tone again, or look at her like that again, I will dismantle your company piece by piece. Walk away." Vance paled, muttered a terrified curse, and scurried back into the crowd. Alexander took a slow, deep breath, his chest heaving slightly as he fought to rein in his fury. He turned to me, his eyes dark with a protective anger. "I need some air." He took my hand, his grip tight but incredibly gentle, and led me away from the treacherous ballroom floor, pulling us out onto a secluded, dimly lit balcony overlooking the city skyline. The cool night air rushed over us. Alexander paced to the edge of the stone balustrade, gripping the railing. "I appreciate the tactical support," I said softly, stepping up beside him and resting my hand on the center of his broad back. He turned to face me, the anger completely washing out of his eyes the second he looked at me, leaving behind a raw, overwhelming tenderness. He reached up, gently cupping my face in his large hands. "I know you were prepared to tear him apart," Alexander murmured, his thumbs lightly tracing my cheekbones. "You don't need a knight in shining armor, Maya. You are a queen in your own right. You are a force of nature." He sighed, leaning forward to rest his forehead against mine, his voice dropping to a vulnerable whisper. "But when he looked at you, I didn't step in as your CEO. I stepped in as a man who is terrifyingly, helplessly drawn to you. I just want to take care of you. I want to be the one who stands between you and the rest of the world. Is that allowed?" The sheer, unfiltered sweetness of his confession made my breath catch, and my eyes sting with completely unfamiliar tears. There was no calculation, no corporate jargon, just a man asking to cherish me. "Only," I whispered, reaching up to tangle my fingers in the soft hair at the nape of his neck, "if you let me fiercely protect you in return." A slow, breathtaking smile broke across Alexander's face. "Deal," he breathed. He pulled me flush against his chest, lowering his head to capture my lips in a deep, consuming, infinitely sweet kiss. The sounds of the city faded away, leaving only the intoxicating reality of a man who I think loved me exactly as I was, formidable, ruthless, and entirely his. Chapter 9. The intoxicating afterglow of our newly forged alliance lasted exactly 48 hours before the citadel was breached. It was Monday morning. I was sitting at my sleek new desk outside Alexander's office, sipping my requisite double-shot Americano, and basking in the memory of the balcony. Every time Alexander had walked past my desk that morning, his hand had casually brushed my shoulder, his blue eyes gleaming with a private, smoldering heat that made it incredibly difficult to focus on quarterly spreadsheets. Then, at precisely 9:14 a.m., the magical glowing box of terror let out a sharp, dissonant chime. I opened the Q4 acquisition file, the master presentation we were supposed to deliver to the board of directors on Friday. Instead of my meticulously color-coded ledgers, the screen was filled with cascading rows of corrupted, blood-red error runes. "Alexander!" I shouted, abandoning all corporate decorum as I threw my office door open and marched directly into his sanctum. "We are under attack. The archives have been poisoned." Alexander snapped his phone shut, his relaxed demeanor vanishing instantly. "What happened?" "The master presentation," I reported, my ancient tactical mind slamming into high gear alongside Maya's IT expertise. "The files are corrupted. Someone has introduced a digital plague into our servers. A malware." Alexander's jaw clenched, his eyes turning to frozen steel. "Can IT salvage it?" "I do not trust the common foot soldiers of IT with a breach of this magnitude," I declared, cracking my knuckles. "I will hunt the assassin myself." I rushed back to my desk, Alexander close on my heels. I dropped into my chair and let Maya's brilliant, tech-savvy mind take the reins. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I launched a complex Python script, cross-referencing the access timestamps. To visualize the breach, I pulled the data into a 3D graphic modeling software I had been studying, rendering the server network as a three-dimensional map of glowing nodes. Alexander leaned over my shoulder, one hand braced on the back of my chair, his warmth radiating against my back. "What am I looking at?" "A map of our digital fortress," I murmured, watching as one specific node pulsed with an angry red light. The corruption didn't come from the outside. The firewalls held. It was deployed internally, via a physical tether, a flash drive. I zoomed in on the 3D model, tracing the localized IP address. 4th floor. The employee break room. Terminal 3. I didn't wait for Alexander's permission. I stood up, my crimson heels clicking like war drums against the marble floor, and marched toward the elevators. When I kicked the break room door open, the room was empty save for a single, terrified-looking junior analyst named Kyle, who was aggressively fumbling with the USB port on a corner computer terminal. "Halt!" I commanded. Kyle jumped, dropping his plastic coffee stirrer. He looked at me, then at the towering, lethal presence of Alexander Sterling stepping into the room right behind me. All the color drained from the boy's face. I stalked forward. I didn't have my father's imperial guards, and I didn't have a sword, but I possessed something far more terrifying: absolute, unwavering authority. I grabbed a heavy, black metal stapler from the counter and slammed it down onto the desk right next to Kyle's trembling hand with a deafening crack. Kyle shrieked. "You have deployed a poison into the Emperor's, into the CEO's network," I hissed, leaning over him so he could see the absolute lack of mercy in my eyes. In my past life, treason was punished by the slow removal of fingernails. Today, you are protected by the Ministry of Human Resources. But if you do not tell me exactly who paid you to insert that drive, I will personally ensure you never work in this or any other realm again. It was Apex. Kyle sobbed, cowering away from the stapler. "Richard Vance. He cornered me at a bar last week. He said if I just plugged this drive in for 5 minutes, he'd pay off my student loans. I'm sorry. I didn't know it would delete the board presentation." Alexander stepped forward, his voice a low, terrifying rumble. "Security is on their way, Kyle. Pack your desk." By midnight, the Sterling Financial Building was entirely deserted. The city outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse was a sea of glittering lights, but inside Alexander's office, it felt like a bunker. We had spread the remaining uncorrupted physical files across the massive mahogany desk. Between the stacks of paper sat 2 cardboard boxes of cheap, greasy takeout noodles, a demand of Maya's comfort food cravings that Alexander had surprisingly humored without complaint. Alexander had discarded his suit jacket and tie hours ago. His sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, his hair was delightfully messy from him running his hands through it, and he looked incredibly, beautifully exhausted. "Vance didn't just want to embarrass us," Alexander said, rubbing his eyes as he reviewed a printed ledger. "Without this Q4 presentation, the board will vote against the Vanguard acquisition. He's trying to stall our growth so Apex can swoop in and poach them. He strikes from the shadows because he is too weak to face us on an open battlefield," I replied, snapping a pair of wooden chopsticks apart. I pushed a carton of noodles toward him. "Eat, Alexander. A general cannot formulate strategy on an empty stomach." He looked at the cheap takeout box, then up at me. The harsh lines of corporate stress around his mouth slowly melted into a soft, utterly unguarded smile. "You aren't panicking," he noted quietly, setting his pen down. "Panic is a useless emotion," I said, twirling noodles around my chopsticks. "We have the raw data. We know our enemy's objective. We simply rebuild the presentation and construct a counter-offensive. We will present Vance's sabotage to the board as evidence of Apex's desperation, effectively destroying his credibility in the sector." Alexander stared at me. The silence in the office shifted, the frantic energy of the crisis settling into something deep, heavy, and intensely intimate. He reached across the desk, his large hand gently wrapping around my wrist, lowering my chopsticks. "My entire life, I have fought these battles alone," he murmured, his thumb tracing the pulse point at my wrist. "Everyone else looks at a crisis and waits for me to fix it. They look at me like I'm a machine that prints solutions. But you..." He stood up, walking slowly around the massive desk. I turned in my chair to face him as he stopped right in front of me. He reached down, taking both of my hands and pulling me gently to my feet. "You stand beside me," Alexander whispered, his blue eyes dark and filled with a profound, terrifying vulnerability. "You look at the fire, and you just ask for a weapon. I have never known anyone like you, Maya." "You are not a machine," I replied softly, reaching up to rest my palms flat against his solid chest, feeling the steady, reassuring beat of his heart beneath the fine cotton of his shirt. "You are a brilliant, formidable man. But even emperors need a war council." He let out a ragged breath, leaning his forehead against mine. "I am so incredibly drawn to you that it terrifies me," he confessed, echoing the raw truth he had spoken on the balcony. "I look at you and the empire doesn't matter anymore. Only you do." "Then let us secure the empire," I whispered, sliding my arms around his neck, "so we can focus on more important matters." Alexander didn't need any further prompting. He wrapped his arms tightly around my waist, pulling me flush against him, and kissed me. It was a slow, deep, incredibly grounding kiss that tasted of cheap takeout and absolute devotion. Amidst the scattered ledgers and the looming threat of corporate sabotage, I melted into his embrace, completely secure in the knowledge that whatever battles awaited us on Friday, Richard Vance didn't stand a chance. Chapter 10. Friday morning arrived not with the blare of war horns, but with the shrill alarm of Maya's smartphone. I stood before the bathroom mirror, preparing for battle. In the imperial court, I would have donned heavy jade hairpins and painted my lips with crushed carmine. Today my armor was a flawless, tailored black power suit. But first, the war paint. I reached for the small glass dropper bottle on the counter, an Estalin turmeric vitamin C serum I had discovered in Maya's meticulously organized skincare cabinet. As I massaged the bright, citrus-scented liquid into my skin, targeting the slight, rough texture along my jawline, I smiled at my glowing reflection. True dominance required a radiant, impenetrable canvas. Finally, as a tribute to the woman whose brilliant mind I shared, I pulled my hair back into a sleek, severe ponytail, securing it with her handmade crochet scrunchie. I was ready to conquer. When Alexander and I walked into the grand boardroom at 9 a.m., the atmosphere was thick enough to choke on. The 12 members of the board of directors sat around the obsidian table, their faces grim. And standing at the far end of the room, looking like a heavily gelled vulture, was Richard Vance. What is he doing here? I murmured to Alexander, keeping my voice pitched for his ears only. Vance owns a 2% proxy share through a shell company, Alexander replied smoothly, his hand resting reassuringly at the small of my back before he pulled out my chair. He has the legal right to attend the quarterly shareholder vote. Let him dig his own grave. Once Alexander formally opened the meeting, Vance didn't waste a single second. He practically lunged for the center of the room. Gentlemen of the board, Vance announced, flashing his overly white smile. We are here to vote on the Vanguard Logistics acquisition. But before we commit Sterling Financial's capital to this venture, I believe we need to address the structural decay within our own walls. He dramatically pressed a button on a remote. The massive screen at the front of the room flickered, displaying the blood-red error runes of our corrupted Q4 presentation. Gasps echoed around the table. Several board members began whispering frantically. Sterling Financial's digital infrastructure is deeply compromised. Vance lied smoothly, adopting a look of profound fake sympathy. Their data is wiped. Their security is a joke. They are flying blind. As CEO of Apex Holdings and a concerned shareholder, I am officially proposing a a strategic merger. Apex will absorb Sterling, stabilizing your assets before Alexander's recklessness sinks this ship entirely. The board erupted into chaotic murmurs. Vance smirked at me, clearly expecting me to panic or weep. Instead, I let out a slow, dark, melodic laugh that instantly silenced the entire room. I stood up slowly, smoothing the jacket of my black suit. I didn't look at the board. I looked exclusively at Alexander. He sat at the head of the table, his blue eyes blazing with absolute, unwavering trust. He gave me a single-minute nod. Release the hounds. I picked up my laptop, walked to the front of the room, and bypassed Vance entirely to plug my own physical tether into the main projector. Richard Vance is correct about one thing, I announced, my voice ringing with imperial authority. A ship is indeed sinking, but it is not ours. I hit the enter key. The screen behind me didn't just display a spreadsheet. Using the 3D graphic modeling software I had mastered, I projected a massive, rotating, three-dimensional architectural model of the two companies' financial structures. Sterling Financial glowed in a steady, unyielding blue. Apex Holdings was a jagged, fractured tower of aggressive, flashing red debt. What is this? Vance demanded, his smirk faltering. This, Richard, is a visual representation of your imminent ruin, I purred. I picked up a black dry erase marker and stepped to the whiteboard beside the projection. 3 days ago, Richard Vance paid a junior analyst to introduce a localized malware tether into our breakroom terminal. I explained to the board, drawing a swift, sharp timeline on the board. It was a clumsy assassination attempt on our Q4 data. Fortunately, I do not rely on standard firewalls. I tracked the IP address, secured the confession, and recovered our files from a decentralized backup. I clicked a button, and our flawless, highly optimized Q4 revenue projections blazed across the screen, replacing the 3D models. The board members let out a collective sigh of relief. But why would the CEO of Apex resort to such petty vandalism? I continued, pacing the length of the whiteboard like a predator circling a wounded stag. Because Apex Holdings is starving, let us examine the enemy's ledger. For the next 10 minutes, I absolutely eviscerated him. I didn't use poison. I didn't summon guards. I used cold, hard, indisputable data. I drew out his debt-to-equity ratios. I exposed the fraudulent inflation of his marketing metrics. I mapped out exactly how his strategic merger was nothing more than a desperate raid on Sterling's treasury to pay off his impending loan defaults. He does not want to save you, I concluded, slamming the cap back onto the marker with a sharp snap. I turned to face the stunned, silent board members. He wants to feed your gold reserves to his dying empire. I recommend an immediate vote to proceed with the Vanguard acquisition, and a secondary vote to initiate a formal SEC investigation into Apex Holdings for corporate espionage. The silence in the boardroom was absolute. Every eye shifted from my meticulously drawn whiteboard to Richard Vance. Vance was sweating through his shiny suit. He opened his mouth to defend himself, but the chairman of the board simply held up a hand. Security, the chairman said coldly, speaking into the intercom on the table. Please escort Mr. Vance from the building and revoke his proxy clearance. As two burly security guards hauled a sputtering, totally defeated Vance out of the glass doors, the boardroom erupted into a spontaneous round of applause. They unanimously approved the Vanguard acquisition in record time. When the meeting adjourned and the executives filed out, buzzing with excited energy, Alexander and I were left alone in the quiet boardroom. I stood by the whiteboard, a profound sense of peace washing over me. Mingyu's tactical brilliance and Maya's moral compass had merged perfectly. We hadn't destroyed a man out of malice. We had protected our realm with the truth. I felt a warm, heavy presence step up close behind me. Alexander's arm slid smoothly around my waist, pulling my back flush against his solid chest. He buried his face in the crook of my neck, inhaling deeply. I have never been so entirely, helplessly turned on by a whiteboard in my entire life. He groaned softly against my skin, sending a violent shiver down my spine. I laughed, leaning back into his embrace, my hands coming up to rest over his. You were a very silent emperor today, Lord Alexander. I didn't need to speak, he murmured, turning me around in his arms so he could look down at me. The pride and absolute adoration in his blue eyes were blinding. He reached up, his thumb lightly tracing my cheek, completely unbothered by my power suit or my ruthless presentation. I was too busy watching the woman I love completely conquer the world. My breath hitched. It was the first time he had used the word love out loud, without any corporate qualifiers. I believe, I whispered, reaching up to loop my arms around his neck. This calls for a celebration. Cancel my afternoon appointments, Alexander breathed, right before he leaned down and kissed me with a fierce, possessive heat that promised a very, very long celebration indeed. Chapter 11. The aftermath of a great victory in the ancient courts was usually loud. Feasts, roaring music, and the constant, exhausting vigilance of watching your back while everyone drank too much wine. But the morning after the Vanguard acquisition, the world was spectacularly, beautifully quiet. It was Saturday. A soft, steady rain drummed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Alexander's penthouse. For the first time since my soul had violently slammed into this modern realm, I wasn't plotting a hostile takeover, and I wasn't wearing armor. I was wearing an oversized gray t-shirt that belonged to Alexander, my legs curled beneath me on his massive velvet sofa. I was discovering that actual romance didn't just exist in the adrenaline-fueled moments after a boardroom slaughter. It lived in the quiet, unguarded spaces in between. In my lap rested a skein of incredibly soft baby wool in a deep, rich sapphire blue. My fingers moved with practiced, rhythmic precision, looping and pulling the yarn with a silver crochet hook. It was one of Maya's deeply ingrained habits, a tactile, soothing repetition that I had unexpectedly come to cherish. In the imperial court, I had embroidered silk with needles sharp enough to draw blood. Here, I was constructing a soft, intricate halter top, letting the gentle friction of the wool ground my racing mind. You've been at that for an hour. The deep, sleep-rough voice made my chest warm instantly. I looked up. Alexander was leaning against the doorframe of the kitchen. He was barefoot, wearing only a pair of dark gray sweatpants that hung low on his hips. Without the sharp lines of his tailored suits or the heavy mantle of his CEO persona, he looked entirely human, devastatingly handsome, and incredibly relaxed. He walked over to the sofa, carrying two steaming ceramic mugs. He set them on the glass coffee table, the rich aroma of my requisite black elixir filling the air, before sinking onto the cushions beside me. He didn't crowd me, but he sat close enough that the solid heat of his body radiated against my side. "It requires focus," I murmured, my hands pausing as I looked at the intricate stitches. "It is peaceful. In my previous life, if my hands were idle, it meant I was dead." Maya used this craft to calm her anxieties. I use it to remember that I do not always have to hold a weapon. Alexander's eyes softened completely. He reached out, his large, warm fingers gently tracing the edge of the blue wool resting in my lap, before his hand slid over to cover mine. "Tell me about her," he asked quietly. "And tell me about you." He wasn't asking for an executive summary. He was asking for the truth. Over the past few weeks, I had dropped hints, speaking of warlords, poison, and dynasties. Alexander had accepted my eccentricities, with a mix of amusement and awe. But now, in the quiet intimacy of the rain-swept morning, there was no hiding behind corporate metaphors. So I told him. I told him about the crushing weight of being the matriarch of the Shun household. I told him about the arranged marriages, the constant threat of assassination, and the cold, terrifying isolation of absolute power. I told him how I had died in agonizing pain, only to wake up drooling on a keyboard in a cubicle, trapped in the mind of a brilliant, terrified data analyst who let the world walk all over her. Alexander didn't interrupt. He didn't laugh, and he didn't call for a psychiatric evaluation. He simply listened, his thumb drawing slow, incredibly tender circles against the back of my hand. When I finally finished, my voice was slightly hoarse. I looked away, suddenly feeling entirely stripped bare. "It sounds like madness." "I know." "Maya, look at me." His voice was a gentle command. I turned my head. Alexander shifted his weight, closing the remaining distance between us. He reached up, his hands gently framing my face. His thumbs lightly stroked my cheekbones, his blue eyes searching mine with a depth of emotion that completely stole my breath. "It doesn't matter if it's madness or magic or a psychological break," Alexander whispered fiercely. "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" I shook my head slightly, my heart hammering a slow, heavy rhythm in my chest. "I see a woman who survived a lifetime of cruelty, who was dropped into a world she didn't understand, and who chose to fight instead of fold," he murmured, his forehead coming to rest against mine. "I see a woman who uses her brilliance to protect people, not just destroy them. You took Maya's kindness and gave her your spine. You are the most magnificent creature I have ever encountered." A single, treacherous tear slipped down my cheek. In 2 lifetimes, no one had ever praised me for my survival. They had only ever demanded my obedience. Alexander caught the tear with his thumb, his gaze dropping to my lips. "I spent 34 years building an empire so no one could ever hurt me," he confessed, his voice thick with raw vulnerability. "I locked everyone out. And then you walked into my boardroom in a crimson suit, slapped Todd's hand, and completely leveled my walls. I don't just love you, Maya. I revere you." This wasn't a rushed, adrenaline-fueled kiss on a balcony. When Alexander kissed me this time, it was agonizingly slow. It was a sweet, deliberate exploration, his lips moving against mine with a reverence that made my entire soul ache. I let my crochet hook slip from my fingers, the blue wool falling forgotten into my lap as I reached up, threading my hands through the thick, soft hair at the nape of his neck. He groaned softly, shifting closer, his arms wrapping entirely around me. He pulled me out of my seated position and across his lap, holding me flush against his chest. I buried my face in the crook of his neck, breathing in the scent of cedar, coffee, and rain. We stayed like that for a long time, tangled together on the sofa, the quiet hum of the city far below us. He held me not like a prize to be won or a general to be deployed, but like a treasure to be guarded. "Alexander," I whispered against his skin, feeling entirely, fundamentally safe. "I'm right here," he promised, pressing a soft kiss to the top of my head. "I'm not going anywhere." For the first time in either of my lives, I finally believed it. Chapter 12. 2 months after the Vanguard Logistics acquisition, the sterling financial empire was operating with terrifying, absolute efficiency. I was sitting at my desk in the executive suite, fully immersed in the spoils of our victory. I had spent the morning cross-referencing Vanguard's scattered financial infrastructure, auditing their traditional and digital banks, by ruthlessly consolidating their assets and eliminating a ridiculous web of redundant annual and monthly account fees. I had just optimized our newly acquired treasury by a margin of 15%. It was a good morning to be a matriarch. Cuckoo. I looked up from my dual monitors. Alexander was leaning against the doorway of his office. He was wearing a sharp navy blue suit, his hands in his pockets, and that slow, devastatingly fond smile on his face, the one he reserved entirely for me. Over the past 2 months, our partnership had flourished into something profound. During the day, we were a synchronized, unstoppable force in the boardroom. At night, we built a quiet, fiercely protected sanctuary in his penthouse. Yes, Lord Alexander? I replied smoothly, saving my spreadsheets. Do you require assistance dismantling another rival faction? Or are we simply admiring my profit margins? While your profit margins are undeniably stunning, he chuckled, stepping away from the door and gesturing for me to enter his office. I actually have a matter of internal compliance to discuss with you. Bring your pen. My ancient instincts flared briefly. Internal compliance? Had someone discovered my secret stash of the black elixir in the break room? I picked up my favorite heavy metal pen and followed him into his sunlit sanctum. Alexander walked behind his massive mahogany desk, but instead of sitting, he picked up a thick, leather-bound folder and held it out to me. What is this? I asked, taking the heavy folder. Your new employment contract, Alexander stated, his voice perfectly even, though his blue eyes were completely alight with a hidden, electric energy. As my COO, you have exceeded all performance metrics. You've secured our supply lines, boosted morale, and successfully terrified the marketing department into actual productivity. It's time to renegotiate your terms. I raised an eyebrow, genuinely intrigued. You are offering me more gold? Or a larger province to rule? Read the terms, Maya, he urged softly, rounding the desk so he was standing directly in front of me. I opened the folder. The first few pages were standard corporate jargon: stock options, executive authority, expanded operational budgets. It was a magnificent display of wealth and power. But as I flipped to the final section, titled Permanent Merger and Long-Term Synergy Agreements, the legal terminology began to look incredibly strange. 1. Party A, Alexander Sterling, hereby agrees to forfeit all bachelor assets and commits to an exclusive, lifetime partnership with Party B, Maya. 2. Party B retains full veto power over all domestic disputes, holiday itineraries, and the thermostat temperature in the primary residence. 3. In the event of a breach of contract, Party A surrenders his heart, his empire, and his Aston Martin to Party B. I stopped breathing. My eyes flew down to the bottom of the page. Sitting in the hollowed-out section of the thick paper was a ring. It wasn't a modern, minimalist corporate diamond. It was an antique, brilliant cut sapphire surrounded by a halo of diamonds, set in heavy gold. It looked like a piece of imperial treasure, worthy of a dynasty. Alexander, I whispered, my voice trembling as I looked up at him. He didn't kneel. We weren't in a fairy tale. We were in a boardroom, and we were equals. Instead, he stepped seamlessly into my space, his large hands coming up to gently grip my waist. The teasing, corporate banter vanished from his eyes, leaving behind a raw, overwhelming devotion that brought immediate tears to my eyes. I told you I don't deal in ambiguity, Alexander murmured, his thumbs lightly tracing the curve of my waist. I want you permanently embedded in my life, Maya. No existe strategies. No se veren packages. I want to merge our lives completely. I want to wake up next to you every morning. And I want to rule this world with you by my side. He reached down, gently pulling the sapphire ring from the document. He took my left hand, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. In the corporate world, they call it golden handcuffs, he whispered, his gaze locked entirely on mine. A contract so lucrative you can never leave. But this isn't a trap, my love. It's a surrender. I am giving you everything I have. Will you marry me? In my past life, I had signed marriage treaties to secure armies. I had been traded like grain. But standing here, in the heart of a modern citadel, being offered the world by a man who cherished my mind as much as my heart, I knew I had finally won the only war that mattered. Lord Alexander. I breathed, tears finally spilling over my lashes as a radiant, overjoyed smile broke across my face. I find these terms entirely, flawlessly acceptable. Alexander let out a ragged sigh of pure relief. He slipped the heavy sapphire onto my finger, a perfect fit, before wrapping his arms securely around my waist and lifting me clean off my feet. I laughed, a bright, genuine sound of pure joy, tangling my arms around his neck as he spun me around in the sunlight. He set me down slowly, letting my body slide against his eyes dark with absolute adoration. "Deal," he whispered. He captured my lips in a kiss that tasted of victory, profound relief, and forever. It was a binding contract signed not in ink, but in sheer unconditional love. The ancient matriarch and the modern data analyst had finally found their perfect empire, and it was entirely spectacularly ours. Chapter 13. "We are crossing the border into the sterling ancestral territory," I announced, adjusting the rearview mirror of the Aston Martin to check our 6 o'clock for pursuing factions. "I have reviewed the dossiers you provided. Your mother, Eleanor, is a retired professor of history. Your father, Thomas, is a former architect. Are there any hidden loyalties I should be aware of? Any rival cousins hiding in the shrubbery?" Alexander, who was navigating the winding, tree-lined roads of Connecticut with one hand comfortably on the steering wheel, let out a booming laugh. He reached across the center console, capturing my left hand and threading his fingers through mine. The heavy sapphire on my ring finger caught the dappled afternoon sunlight. "No rival cousins, my love," he promised, bringing my knuckles to his lips for a quick kiss. "And no archers in the shrubbery. It's just Sunday dinner. They are absolutely thrilled to meet you. You don't need to treat this like a diplomatic hostage negotiation." I kept my posture rigid. A matriarch never lets her guard down. In the ancient courts, the Dowager Empress was always the most lethal adversary. A single misplaced word over tea could result in your entire bloodline being exiled to the salt mines. "Well, my mother's biggest threat is offering you a second slice of cherry pie until you physically cannot stand up," Alexander said, his eyes crinkling with amusement. "Just be yourself, Maya. They are going to adore you." We pulled into a long, gravel driveway that led to a beautiful, sprawling colonial house, surrounded by massive oak trees and vibrant flower gardens. It was not a towering glass corporate citadel, nor was it a cold stone fortress. It looked incredibly warm. Before Alexander could even put the car in park, the front door flew open. A woman with silver hair pulled into an elegant twist, and wearing a soft, oversized cardigan rushed down the porch steps. She was followed closely by a tall, broad-shouldered man with a neatly trimmed beard and a warm, crinkling smile. "Prepare yourself," I whispered, taking a deep breath and squaring my shoulders. "The Dowager Empress approaches." I stepped out of the car, fully prepared to offer a formal, perfectly executed bow to establish my submission to the elder generation. But before I could even lower my head, Eleanor Sterling closed the distance and threw her arms completely around me. My ancient instincts flared in sheer panic. A grappling maneuver. She is attempting to restrict my airways. But then the scent of vanilla and lavender washed over me. Eleanor squeezed me tightly, patting my back with genuine, overwhelming affection. Maya's quiet, buried memories of a distant, fragmented childhood suddenly swelled in my chest, recognizing the gesture for what it was, a mother's embrace. Slowly, awkwardly, I raised my arms and hugged her back. "Oh, look at you," Eleanor beamed, pulling back but keeping her hands warmly on my shoulders. Her blue eyes, the exact same shade as Alexander's, were shining with unshed tears. "You are even more beautiful than Alexander described. And trust me, he hasn't stopped talking about you for 2 months." "Mother," Alexander warned playfully, coming around the car to wrap an arm around my waist. "It's the truth," Thomas chimed in, stepping forward. Instead of offering a formal handshake, he pulled me into a brief, warm hug of his own. "Welcome to the family, Maya. I'm Thomas. Come inside, both of you. It's freezing out here, and I just took the roast out of the oven." I was entirely disarmed. We moved into the house, which smelled intoxicatingly of roasted garlic, fresh bread, and wood smoke from the fireplace. There were no servants, no guards, no poison tasters. Thomas poured the wine himself, and Eleanor casually enlisted my help in carrying the salad bowl to the dining room table. Throughout dinner, I remained on high alert, waiting for the inevitable interrogation. I waited for Eleanor to ask about my pedigree, my family's wealth, or my strategic value to the Sterling Empire. Instead, she passed me the potatoes and asked about my crochet. "Alexander mentioned you made that beautiful blue halter top you were wearing in the photo he sent us," Eleanor said, her eyes bright with genuine interest. "I used to knit, but I could never get the hang of crochet. It requires such patience. It is a soothing exercise," I corrected smoothly, feeling the tension in my shoulders begin to melt. It forces the mind to focus on the immediate stitch, rather than the overarching campaign. That is a lovely way to put it, Thomas smiled, raising his wine glass to me. Alexander tells us you completely restructured Vanguard's assets last week. We are incredibly proud of him, of course, but it sounds like you are the real brains behind the operation. Dad, Alexander groaned, though he was smiling, his hand resting comfortably on my knee beneath the table. I am merely the strategist, I replied, looking at Alexander, my heart swelling with an affection so deep it physically ached. Your son is the emperor who built the realm. I only help him defend it. Eleanor set her fork down, her gaze shifting between Alexander and me. The room grew quiet for a moment. My spine stiffened slightly. Here it comes. The judgment. But Eleanor's eyes were incredibly soft, shimmering with fresh tears. Maya, she said softly, reaching across the table to gently cover my hand with hers. For years, Thomas and I watched Alexander build his company. We watched him grow so cold, so isolated in that glass tower of his. We worried that he would never find someone who saw him, and not just his title or his money. She squeezed my hand, her voice thick with emotion. When he called us to tell us he had proposed, I have never heard my son sound so happy, so alive. You didn't just help him secure a company, sweetheart. You gave him his heart back. Thank you. The breath completely left my lungs. In the ancient world, I had fought tooth and nail for the barest scrap of approval from my family. I had forged ledgers, poisoned rivals, and sacrificed my own soul just to be seen as valuable. And here was this warm, brilliant woman, thanking me simply for loving her son. Maya's gentle heart completely overflowed, overriding all of Mingyu's remaining imperial defenses. You do not need to thank me, Eleanor, I whispered, my voice trembling slightly as I squeezed her hand back. Alexander is. He is the greatest victory of my life. I am honored to be part of your family. After dinner, while Thomas and Alexander argued amicably over a chessboard in the living room, Eleanor took me into the kitchen to prepare coffee. She pulled a small, worn leather book from a drawer and slid it across the island counter to me. I thought you might like to see this. But don't tell Alexander the first showed you, or he will have me investigated for corporate espionage. I opened the book. It was a photo album. Page after page of a young Alexander, missing his front teeth, wearing a slightly crooked graduation cap, holding a golden retriever puppy. I traced the photos with my fingertips, a soft, helpless smile spreading across my face. He looks so entirely unlethal. Eleanor laughed warmly, bumping her shoulder gently against mine. He was a very sweet boy, and he grew into a very formidable man. But I can see that with you, he gets to be sweet again. You take good care of him, Maya. And we will take good care of you. You're a sterling now. Later that evening, as we stood on the front porch preparing to leave, the crisp night air biting at our cheeks, Alexander wrapped his coat around my shoulders. His parents waved from the doorway, completely unbothered by the cold, their arms wrapped around each other. As we walked down the driveway toward the Aston Martin, I stopped. Are you all right? Alexander asked softly, turning back to look at me. The moonlight caught the sharp, beautiful angles of his face. I spent my entire existence waiting for a knife in the dark, I murmured, looking back at the warmly lit house. I analyzed every word, every gesture, searching for the trap. But there is no trap here, is there? Alexander closed the distance between us. He reached out, gently cupping my face, his thumbs wiping away a stray tear I hadn't even realized had fallen. No traps, he promised fiercely, his voice a dark, velvet vow against the quiet night. Just us. Just a family. I stepped into his arms, burying my face against his chest, holding on to him with everything I had. I was Mingyu, the ruthless matriarch of the Shun Empire. I was Maya, the brilliant, resilient data analyst. But standing in the quiet Connecticut night, wrapped in the arms of the man I loved, I was finally something entirely new. I was home. Chapter 14. I do not understand the strategic value of this fondant, I stated, narrowing my eyes at the towering, multi-tiered white cake depicted in the glossy magazine. It provides no structural integrity, and its nutritional value for the troops is negligible. We shall serve roasted meats and a dark, heavily spiced fruitcake, something that can survive a winter siege. Chloe, our highly recommended, aggressively perky wedding planner, blinked rapidly. Her manicured hands trembled as she clutched her iPad to her chest. She looked desperately across the penthouse living room, seeking salvation. Alexander was sitting on the velvet sofa, his long legs stretched out and crossed at the ankles. He held a glass of scotch in one hand, completely at ease, watching me terrorize the wedding industry with an expression of profound, unadulterated adoration. "The COO has spoken, Chloe," Alexander said, his lips twitching as he took a slow sip of his drink. "No fondant. We need a cake built for a winter siege." "Oh, okay," Chloe squeaked, furiously typing on her tablet. "No fondant." Meek noted. Moving on to the seating chart. "We have a slight issue with the Vanguard executives. They requested to sit near the bar, but that puts them right next to your IT department." "Absolutely not," I commanded, leaning over the massive blueprint of the reception hall we had spread across the coffee table. I picked up a red marker. "We cannot position the supply chain generals next to the intelligence operatives after they've consumed alcohol. It invites espionage. We will put Vanguard by the floral arches and flank them with accounting. Greg is too terrified of me to leak corporate secrets." "Greg is terrified of his own shadow, my love," Alexander chuckled gently, setting his glass down and rising from the sofa. He walked over to where I was standing, sliding his arms seamlessly around my waist from behind. He pressed a warm, lingering kiss to the curve of my neck, making my pulse immediately leap. Chloe, sensing she had survived the harshest of the negotiations, quickly gathered her things. "I'll just take these notes and draft a revised battle plan, itinerary," Chloe stammered, backing toward the door. "I'll email you both on Monday." As the heavy penthouse door clicked shut, Alexander let out a low, rumbling laugh against my skin. He turned me around in his arms, his blue eyes dancing with amusement. "You are going to give that poor woman a stress ulcer before the month is out," he murmured, his hands resting comfortably on my hips. "She charged us a retainer equal to a small nation's GDP," I pointed out, resting my hands on his broad chest. "I expect her to handle the logistics of a minor war. Besides, a wedding is not merely a party, Alexander. It is a public declaration of an alliance. In the ancient courts, weddings were targets for assassination. I am simply ensuring our perimeters are secure." Alexander's amusement softened into that deep, raw tenderness that still, even months later, took my breath away. He reached up, gently brushing a stray lock of hair behind my ear. "No one is going to assassinate us, Maya," he promised softly. "The only thing happening on that day is me standing in front of our friends, my family, and our entire empire, vowing to spend the rest of my life worshipping the ground you walk on. You don't need armor for this." I looked up into his eyes, feeling the last remnants of Mingyu's ancient, deeply ingrained paranoia melt away into the quiet safety of Maya's heart. "I know," I whispered. "I just want it to be perfect. For you." "It's already perfect," he replied, leaning down to capture my lips in a slow, exquisitely sweet kiss. "Because you're there." 3 weeks later, the day of the matrimonial campaign arrived. We did not marry in a sterile corporate ballroom. At Eleanor's gentle suggestion, we held the ceremony on the sweeping, manicured grounds of the Sterling Ancestral Estate in Connecticut. The late summer air was warm, smelling of pine and blooming jasmine. I stood in the master suite of the estate, staring at my reflection in the antique floor-length mirror. My armor for the day was a masterpiece. I had rejected tulle, lace, and anything remotely resembling a distressed pastry. Instead, I wore a gown of heavy, flawless white silk. It was structured, architectural, and completely regal, featuring a sharp, plunging neckline and a dramatic cape that cascaded from my shoulders like the mantle of an empress. Around my wrist, entirely hidden beneath the heavy silk of my sleeve, I wore the soft, blue crochet scrunchie, a secret, quiet tribute to the girl who had given me a second chance at life. There was a soft knock on the door, and Eleanor stepped in. She was wearing a beautiful silver gown, her eyes already welling with tears. "Oh, Maya," she breathed, pressing a hand to her heart. "You look like royalty." "Thank you, Eleanor," I smiled, turning to face her. "Are the factions assembled?" "Everyone is seated," she laughed wetly, stepping forward to gently adjust the train of my cape. "And Alexander is at the altar. I have never seen a man look so impatient in my entire life. He looks like he's ready to march up here and carry you down himself. Then we must not keep the emperor waiting." The walk down the aisle was the longest, most terrifying, and most magnificent march of my existence. A string quartet played a deep, resonant melody as I stepped out of the French doors and onto the white runner that stretched across the lawn. Hundreds of guests turned to look at me. I saw Greg from accounting, weeping openly into a handkerchief. I saw the Vanguard executives, looking appropriately intimidated by the sheer authority of the event. But I only cared about the man standing at the end of the aisle. Alexander was wearing a bespoke, midnight blue tuxedo that made him look like a devastatingly handsome warlord. When his eyes locked onto mine, his breath visibly hitched. The cold, calculating CEO was entirely gone. In his place was a man whose soul was completely, unapologetically laid bare. He watched me approach as though I were the only living thing in the universe. When I finally reached him, he didn't wait for the officiant's cue. He immediately reached out, taking both of my hands in his grip desperate and grounding. "You are magnificent," he whispered, his voice incredibly thick. "As are you, my love," I murmured back. The ceremony was a blur of traditional words, but when it came time for the vows, Alexander didn't read from a card. He stepped closer, his blue eyes blazing with absolute sincerity. "My entire life I sought control," Alexander said, his voice carrying clearly across the quiet, sunlit lawn. "I built fortresses of data and logic, convinced that if I was untouchable, I would be safe. And then you walked into my life, tore down every wall I had ever built, and showed me that true power isn't in isolation. It's in partnership." He slipped a heavy platinum band onto my finger, right above my sapphire engagement ring. "I vow to be your shield when you need rest, and your sword when you choose to fight. I surrender my empire, my heart, and my life to you, Maya, for this lifetime, and any that come after." Tears spilled freely over my lashes. In the ancient world, my marriage had been a transaction. Today it was a triumph. "In my past," I began, my voice trembling but carrying the undeniable weight of an empress, "I believed that love was a vulnerability, a weakness to be exploited by enemies. I spent my existence waiting for a knife in the dark. But you." I reached up, gently wiping a stray tear from his cheek. "You are not a threat, Alexander. You are my sanctuary. You gave me a home when I didn't know how to ask for one." I slid the gold ring onto his finger. "I vow to fiercely protect our realm, to challenge you, to cherish you, and to never, ever let you fight a battle alone. You are my emperor, my equal, and my greatest victory." The officiant smiled, wiping his own eyes. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Alexander didn't just kiss me. He wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me flush against his chest, and dipped me low. The crowd erupted into deafening cheers and applause as he captured my lips in a fierce, consuming, completely spellbinding kiss. It was the sealing of a permanent, unbreakable treaty. When he finally pulled me back up, resting his forehead against mine, we were both breathless and smiling so hard it hurt. "The citadel is secure, Mrs. Sterling," he whispered, his eyes dark with a promise of the night to come. "The citadel is ours, Mr. Sterling," I corrected smoothly, tangling my fingers in his dark hair. "Now let us go feed our troops. I believe there is a heavily spiced fruitcake waiting for us." Epilogue. The western flank of the living room had officially fallen to the barbarians. I stood in the doorway, a freshly brewed cup of the black elixir in my hand, assessing the sheer scale of the destruction. The battlefield was littered with jagged, colorful plastic caltrops, Legos as the modern world called them, and the plush velvet sofa had been stripped of its cushions to form a heavily fortified bunker. "Insubordination in the ranks," again I murmured, taking a sip of my coffee. From behind the cushion barricade emerged the leaders of the rebellion, 4-year-old twins. Victoria, the elder by exactly 4 minutes, possessed my ancient, unyielding ruthlessness and Alexander's piercing blue eyes. She was currently standing on top of the coffee table, wielding a plastic lightsaber like a broadsword, her dark hair entirely escaping her braids. Her brother, Leo, possessed Maya's gentle, analytical heart but had unfortunately inherited my terrifying stubbornness. He sat cross-legged behind the barricade, clutching the disputed territory, an electronic tablet playing a highly repetitive song about a family of sharks. "Give it. I'm the queen," Victoria demanded, pointing the plastic sword at her brother. "I want to watch the dragons." "No. It's my turn," Leo yelled back, curling his body protectively over the tablet. The timer didn't beep yet. Mommy said it. It was true. After realizing that negotiating with toddlers was statistically more volatile than a hostile corporate takeover, I had written a custom Python script that locked and unlocked their tablets based on a strict, fair trade algorithm. I stepped into the room, expertly dodging a rogue toy truck. "Halt!" I commanded, my voice dropping to that smooth, chilling register that used to terrify marketing directors, and now merely made my children pause. Both twins froze. They looked up at me, their eyes wide. "A matriarch does not tolerate civil war within the citadel," I announced, crossing my arms. "Victoria, lower your weapon. You do not hit your brother with plastic swords. And Leo, while your adherence to the timer is correct, you cannot scream at your sister." "But mommy," I traded, Victoria whined, dropping the lightsaber and stomping her little foot. "I gave him my red gummies. And he ate them and didn't give me the iPad." "Did not," Leo protested, though a suspicious red stain lingered near the corner of his mouth. Before I could issue my final judgment on the fraudulent fruit snack exchange rate, the heavy oak front door of our Connecticut estate opened with a familiar click. "Status report, COO?" A collective gasp of absolute joy echoed through the living room. The Civil War was instantly forgotten. "Daddy," Alexander stepped into the foyer, looking devastatingly handsome in his tailored charcoal suit, his tie already loosened. The terrifying, untouchable CEO of Sterling Financial didn't even make it 3 steps into the house before he was entirely ambushed. He dropped his leather briefcase to the floor just in time to catch Victoria as she launched herself at him, scooping her up into his left arm while Leo tackled his right leg. "Oof," Alexander laughed, a deep, rich sound that echoed through the house, lifting Leo up with his free arm. "What is the meaning of this? Am I being attacked by a dinosaur and a warrior princess?" "I'm not a princess, I'm a dragon," Victoria corrected loudly, planting a wet kiss on his cheek. "Roar. We caught you, Daddy." Leo giggled, squirming happily against his father's broad shoulder. I leaned against the doorframe, watching the most powerful man in the financial sector be completely dominated by 2 children in mismatched pajamas. The sight of it, his broad shoulders relaxed, his blue eyes crinkling with sheer, unadulterated happiness as he kissed the tops of their heads, sent a wave of love through my chest so profound it almost knocked me over. Alexander looked up, his gaze catching mine over the children's heads. The playful amusement in his eyes instantly softened into that heavy, smoldering devotion that had never wavered, not even for a single day, in the 5 years we had been married. "And how is the Empress today?" Alexander murmured, walking over to me with a squirming child balanced on each hip. "The Empress was about to use a strategic timeout," I replied, leaning up to press a soft kiss to his lips, tasting the familiar, intoxicating hint of mint and coffee. "But it seems the Emperor has arrived to pardon the traitors." "I am a merciful ruler," Alexander grinned, setting the twins down. "All right, troops. Go wash your hands. We brought reinforcements for dinner." He pulled a white paper bag from his coat pocket. I secured the dumplings. "Yay, dumplings!" The twins cheered in unison, sprinting toward the kitchen and leaving us alone in the ruined living room. Alexander let out a long sigh, shrugging off his suit jacket and tossing it over the surviving armrest of the sofa. He closed the remaining distance between us, sliding his arms seamlessly around my waist and pulling me flush against his chest. I rested my hands over his heart, perfectly content to be entirely surrounded by him. "How was the compy today?" I asked quietly. "Boring," he murmured, resting his chin on the top of my head. "The board approved the European expansion. Apex Holdings finally filed for bankruptcy. But sitting in that boardroom, all I could think about was getting back here to you." He pulled back just enough to look down at me, his thumb gently tracing my jawline. "I missed you." "You saw me at breakfast, Alexander," I smiled. "That was 10 hours ago," he countered smoothly. "An unacceptable amount of time to be away from my wife. In my past life, I had built a dynasty out of fear. I had given birth to heirs solely to secure alliances, viewing my children as pawns on a grand, bloody chessboard. But looking at Alexander and hearing the distant, joyous laughter of our twins fighting over who got to wash their hands first in the kitchen, I realized the ultimate truth of my reincarnation. I hadn't been sent to this modern world to conquer it. I had been sent here to learn how to live in it. I reviewed the quarterly projections for the European merger, I murmured, tangling my fingers in the hair at the nape of his neck. "Your supply chain logistics are flawed. You are going to need your COO in the office tomorrow to restructure the entire campaign." Alexander let out a low, breathy laugh, his eyes darkening with that familiar, exhilarating spark of challenge and desire. "Is that so?" he whispered, his hands tightening possessively on my waist. "Then I suppose I will have to spend the rest of the evening properly compensating my COO for her invaluable counsel. I demand a high price, Lord Alexander. I will give you anything you want, Maya. Always." He captured my lips in a slow, fiercely passionate kiss, pulling me completely against him amidst the scattered Legos and fallen sofa cushions. It was a kiss that tasted of victory, of enduring passion, and of the profound, unshakable peace of a citadel fully secured. The sterling empire was vast, but this chaotic, beautiful, perfectly imperfect home was the only realm I ever needed to rule.